Research since the 1970s has shown that television violence can affect children and encourage their development of aggressive behaviours and attitudes. I've chosen to do my oral report on a study titled Television Violence and Aggression, a retrospective study conducted by Tiffany Slotsky, Alex DeCarmen, Mary Sava, and Rita Villarreal-Watkins. The aim of the study was to determine if exposure to media violence increases an individual's likelihood of engaging in aggressive behaviour. The hypothesis predicted that there's a correlation between an individual's self-reported childhood exposure to and perception of television violence and perceived behaviour. Participants included 130 students from the University of Texas at Arlington in the College of Liberal Arts. The researchers employed a cross-sectional one-shot case study to test the relationship between an individual's self-reported exposure and perception to television violence and their perceived behaviour. The researchers employed Cohen's power sampling to conclude that a sample of 130 students would be a sufficient number of subjects needed to ensure a .05 level of confidence. This provided the number of subjects required to ensure with 95% accuracy that there would be a relationship between the variables in this study, which are exposure to television violence and perceived behaviour. Participants were required to complete a self-report survey measuring exposure and perception to television violence and their perceived behaviour. The survey was designed by the researchers and consisted of 39 questions within 3 sections and consisting of nominal, ordinal, and interval data. Questions related to participants' childhood, which was classified as ages 5 to 15 years, and also related to the participants at the present time and included demographic information. The survey was administered to participants in 4 introductory classes and was critical in determining the students' self-reported exposure and perception to television violence and their perceived behaviour. The survey questions consisted of a 5-point Likert scale, which made the questionnaire more accessible when using statistical measures such as Pearson's correlation coefficient, which I'll go into in a second. The data collected from the surveys was analysed using statistical package for the social sciences, which is basically just software used for managing data and calculating a wide variety of statistics. Pearson's correlation coefficient was used as an effective means of summarising the degree to which the variables correspond with each other. The variables in this study being self-reported childhood exposure to and perception of television violence and also perceived behaviour. Pearson's correlation coefficient just shows the linear relationship between the two sets of data, with a high correlation being 0.5 to 0.1 and a low correlation being 0.1 to 0.3. The researchers also employed a t-test to observe the differences in the means of males and females. A t-test basically just compares the means of 2 groups. For the study, a strong correlation was regarded as 0.60 or above, a moderate correlation between 0.30 and 0.50, and a weak correlation as 0.29. To help analyze data from the Pearson's R test, results are divided into 2 sections, childhood behaviour and adulthood behaviour. Each of these sections presents the data in reference to the most significant Pearson's correlation coefficient, either positive or negative, at the 0.05 level of significance. There were quite a few tables relating to the findings of the study. I'll go over them quite briefly in order to spend more time talking about the results. Results from Table 1 are statistically significant at the 0.05 level, which means there is a 95% certainty that a relationship exists between the variables. Results from Table 2 show that the first 6 significant correlations are statistically significant at the 0.01 level, while the last 3 significant correlations are significant at the 0.05 level. For Table 3, the first 4 significant correlations are statistically significant at the 0.01 level, and the last 2 are statistically significant at the 0.05 level. Results from Table 4 show that the first 6 correlations are statistically significant at the 0.01 level and that the last 7 are statistically significant at the 0.05 level. Results from Table 5 show that the first 9 correlations are statistically significant at the 0.01 level and that the last 5 are statistically significant at the 0.05 level. Results from Table 6 show that the first 9 correlations are statistically significant at the 0.01 level and that the last 3 are significant at the 0.05 level. Table 7 compares the means between males and females for childhood exposure variables. All of the variables in this table relate to when the participant was a child, and all of the variables are statistically significant at the 0.01 level. This suggests that there is a 99% chance that there is a relationship between the variables that is not due to error. Key results found that there are correlations between both exposure to television violence and perceived positive aggressive behaviour, and exposure to television violence and perceived negative aggressive behaviour. Correlation to positive aggressive behaviour can be seen in the variables of participating in a contact or extreme sport, while correlation to negative aggressive behaviour can be seen in the variables of getting into trouble at school more than 3 times a year. So results suggest that exposure to television affects both positive and negative aggressive behaviour. However, the presence of television violence only shows a correlation, not a cause of aggressive behaviour. It is possible that individuals who display aggressive tendencies are attracted to, but not affected by, violence on television. So the study reflects the hypothesis that there is a correlation between an individual's self-reported childhood experience to and perception of television violence and perceived behaviour. It suggests that exposure to television violence affects both positive and negative aggressive behaviour. However, the presence of the single factor of television violence shows a correlation, not a causation. So television violence is not definitely the cause of aggressive behaviour. However, with each additional risk factor, such as drug use or poverty, the risk of children engaging in aggressive behaviour increases. Also, it could be that television violence doesn't affect aggressive behaviour in people who are already attracted to watch violence on television, as they may already have aggressive tendencies. So, the first limitation is that the study is a retrospective study. They're sometimes criticised for making causal inferences. Some participants could have faulty memories. They might not be able to recall their childhood experiences. They may have lied when recalling behaviour that they believe is inappropriate according to society's standards. They're also limited in their ability to reveal how causal processes unfold over time. The second limitation is that the study took place at the University of Texas at Arlington with undergraduate students in the spring of 2006. The findings of the study apply only to the sample and can't be applied to the general population. A final limitation, or third limitation, is the possibility of existence of rival causal factors. So a third variable that wasn't measured or kind of allowed for in the study could have skewed the responses given by the participants on the survey. Examples include poverty, drug use, family instability, or abuse. The reason I chose to do my oral report on this particular study is because rather than measuring the extent to which people's behaviour is affected by media violence, it measured the extent to which they perceive their behaviour to be affected, and I just thought it was really interesting.